Thank you for coming, Jihad, and talking to us about your project, which, Mabruk for getting published in Panorama, and it's a really great project. So today I just wanted to ask you a couple of short questions to get a little bit of a sort of background flavour to the project and what you did. So could you tell us a little bit about how you started the project and why you started it and how you kind of found that very kind of unusual story in Cairo?
Okay, so I live in 6 October, 6 of October city, and the UNHCR like headquarters, I guess, or the space, the building where refugees like actually go is based in 6 of October, and like the neighborhood also has lots of refugees, and so I often passed by the UN, and I would always see like people sitting on the other side of the garden, and I think it's been that way for like a long time, um, like years probably. I'm not sure, but like I remember it being that way for a long time, and like often it was like different people, and I always wondered why they were, they were staying there. And so one day I decided that like I was gonna go ask them like why they were there. And so I guess like there were like two initial days when I went and like asked people why they were there. So the first day, there were people like sitting right in front of the UN, not on the other side, and they were Ethiopian, and I started talking to one of the girls, and they were basically sleeping there because they lived in Maadi, but they were sleeping there because they didn't want to make the trip several days in a row, and they were waiting for paperwork. And then that day I didn't take any pictures. I was just speaking to them. And then the day after, I went to the other side of the garden across from the UN, and then I started speaking to one man, and he started telling me about his life and how he was from Sudan, and then he went to Israel, and then he came from Israel to Egypt, and so it was like it was interesting. And then other people that were sitting in the garden actually got like upset that I was there. So there's one woman, her name's Noel. She got really really like angry, and she was like, "Why are you here?" As soon as I took a picture of the Sudanese man, so I spoke to him, and then I took a picture of him, and then others saw that I was taking a picture of him, and they got angry. And so basically she was like, "Why are you doing this? Why are you taking these photos?" And journalists come here all the time, and they try to like make us look like we're I don't know how to translate the word. Like we're like mutasawilin, and and uh, and then like and then I put the camera away, and then I just stood there and tried to talk to her, and then other people got involved, and then they kept asking me what I was doing and why I was doing it, and I was like, "Oh, I studied like sociology, and like I was just curious why you guys were staying here, and then like bit by bit like they kind of like got like warmed up to me, and then like I just like Noel, like I spent like some time speaking to her that night. So at first she was really angry, and then she kind of kind of gave like this like speech about how angry she was, and then she went on about how how like all these things that happened to her in Sudan, um and then eventually I think because she saw that like I sat there and like listened to her, she kind of like like accepted my presence there. uh and so that night I only took that one picture of the Sudanese men that made everyone angry, and then by the end of like the time I spent there, like I took another picture of Noel, who initially like didn't want me to take any photos, um, and then I went back there again, and I think like they were surprised to see me back there again, and then I kind of tried to like be consistent in like going back there again, and when I spent like, for example, like 2 weeks not going, I think people noticed, and they'd be like, "Oh, like why haven't you been here? Like فينك مش عارف إيه." And then so I started the project in November. So this all started in November, yeah. And then And basically, like, I kind of was doing it aimlessly. Like, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And part of the questions they would ask me were like, so are you going to publish this? Are you a journalist? Are you a student? What are you doing? And I never knew whether I was going to publish it or not. But I would tell them, like, I might publish it. Like, I'm going to try. And then one of the other questions that were also, like, really difficult to answer was, so are you going to help us? And I would always be like, well, I can't really do much, and I'm probably not, but maybe like it would be good to, like, show people that this is happening. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of, but it's also a question that, like, there's really, like, no answer for. Do you know what I mean?
So it was a very slow, gradual process that took you a long time to get their trust.
Mm-hmm.
And then you from what you're talking about, it's quite interesting how you ended up then in this kind of dilemma of what you were doing, like what you were doing,
Mm-hmm.
like what was the purpose of your photographs, and then also what could you do for them. They were obviously thinking about that as well. So there was this interesting kind of, I guess, ambiguity about what your project was, which kind of opens up an interesting question in that, have they seen the photographs published in Panorama?
Not yet, but like so before I found out that the photographs were going to get published, I did, like, speak to Saida, and she asked me, like, about whether, like, I wrote something or, like, did anything with the photos, and I was like, no, not yet, but I'm trying. And she asked me, like, why I haven't done so yet, and then I just told her, like, no, I'm still waiting for them, but I haven't like told her yet that they were published.
Okay, well, that'd be interesting to find out what they think of the project. Were they, I mean, actually, maybe you could just tell us a little about Saida, like, who you then started to build a more close relationship with and focus in on in the project?
Okay, so I think it was Saida and then, like, several other women that I spent a lot of time with. And I think the two main people were Saida and Noel. But then, like, for the sake of, like, the editing, at the end, we focused on Saida. So it wasn't, so like, there's more than just her. And then, basically, I think what, like, what might have helped my relationship with Saida and Noel was the fact that, like, I kind of called them on, like, a regular basis. And so even when, like, I didn't see them, I would call them. And just, like, that I spent a lot of time with them. And then also, so the question of, like, whether I would be able to help, there was always, like, probably not. But they never really asked me for help. Like, you know what I mean? They never asked me for money or anything. But so one of the things that, like, I did was that I tried to look for the head of, like, the Sela. So when eventually, like, when eventually Noel, so before the garden was sort of dispersed, Noel moved into an apartment, and so with her, like, I went with her to Risela, and then there was this whole experience of, like, waiting for, like, the Risela people to, like, call back, and then they didn't call back, and then, like, trying to contact them again, and eventually, like, they brought her furniture. But this was, like, after I took photographs of her. And then it's kind of like the same case with Saida. So after the garden was dispersed, so Saida was there during the dispersal, and then there was this whole issue of, like, so she had a bunch of, like, not furniture, but, like, a bunch of, like, stuff in the garden that was, like, bothering the residents, and so the police came and took all the stuff, and so she had to spend, like, a lot of time at the police station, and then during that time, like, I would, like, like, kind of, like, try to check up. Sorry. And then when she also moved to an apartment, except her story is really complicated because she moved to an apartment, and then the landowner, like, kind of kicked her out and kicked her kids out, and then she had to move into another apartment, and then once she moved into the other apartment, I also went with her to the Risela people. But then now she's moving again, so it's really complicated. lost the track of.
No, the question was around Saida. What what was your relationship with her, and what how did you follow her around? What happened then?
So basically, my relationship with her is kind of like developed because I spent a lot of time, and then like eventually like there was also this factor of like me going to Risala with them, and then after she left the garden, I also visited them, and I went with her to Hussein, and I took pictures of her there, and so that's kind of how the.
But maybe you could tell us just a little bit about like how she lives, like how many children she has, how she makes money from.
Yeah.
From what?
So she has 5 children, and she's a single mother, and these 5 kids like were with her in the garden, and while she was in the garden, she would go to Al Hussein to draw henna on like people's hands for money, and that's how she made a living. And she would have to leave her kids in the garden, and sometimes like the other people would take care of them. And then now that she's moved into an apartment, she still goes to Al Hussein, and she spends like a lot of time there. I think it depends, I guess, on the day, but like when I was with her, she left her house at like 2 after feeding her kids, and then she would come home at like 3 a.m. And then she has her oldest daughter, I think, is 11 years old, and so I guess the oldest daughter kind of takes care of the other 4 siblings.
Okay, great. And how did she respond to the photographs? Did you show her the photographs when you were taking them, or did she have any idea of them, or did you discuss like the photographs you were making of her? Because some of them feel very almost intimate, like they're very, very like close-ups of her, very, very, very strong pictures.
So, yeah, I guess. I mean, she was okay with it from the beginning. She never said no. Like, for example, Noelle said no, and then she said yes, but like Saida was okay with it from the beginning. And I guess the more intimate ones are like at the latter phase. So they're the more recent ones. And I don't know, at one time when she wanted furniture in the apartment that she moved out of, early on, she asked me to come take. I never went to take photos of that apartment, but she asked me to come take photos of the apartment, and she was like, she wanted me to come. Yeah, she wanted me to come take photos because she wanted people to see. And then, but she also wanted people to help, like not just see. She was like, so come and take lots of pictures, and then like the people that see them can either help or then like or they can choose not to. And she was kind of like